This story is for those parents that leave their children, especially daughters, in the care of some compound uncles or brothers. Parents should please stay away from it. In a compound of 3 buildings that has short fences, there was a young man of about 25 years of age, who was the only single man in the compound. He always played with the compound children, mostly the girls, and he usually gave them gifts, in which the girls received the highest gifts from him. All the compound children always wanted to be with him, and they were willing to run errands for him. This man I was talking about is named Daniel, which everyone refers to him as Danny. The oldest child in the compound is 14 years old, and that's Sarah. All the other children of the compound are below her age. She also stays with Uncle Danny to play with the children. Uncle Danny was always good to the compound children. Not until his sudden change was Uncle Danny watching TV in his room, which all compound children always occupy. Even the adults, they all gathered in his room watching TV, and they were all engrossed in the movie they were watching when Danny went out to bite Maria, who had no place to sit, so she was standing, so immediately Uncle Dan left the seat he was sitting in, and Maria quickly went to the seat and sat down comfortably. Not until Uncle Danny came back from the bathroom. Maria wanted to stand up, but Uncle Danny told her to stay, that he's going to carry her on his lap. This made her happy, and she quickly sat on Uncle Danny's lap while other children were all feeling jealous. Maria was sitting on Uncle Dan's lap, but she wasn't comfortable, so Uncle Danny spread his legs apart for Maria to sit in between his thighs so that she would be more comfortable. I want you to be careful. I'm not telling you to be overly suspicious, but always monitor your children. Be wary. Suddenly Uncle Danny felt his manhood rising, which he was having a hard on. He covered it so that others wouldn't notice. Sit down properly, Maria, Uncle Daniel said. Maria answered that his manhood was at full length, that it was touching Maria's B. Seriously, Uncle, what's that? Maria asked. Nothing, or what do you feel? Uncle Danny answered. Nothing, Maria exclaimed. Uncle Dan can no longer cope with the hard-on which he lost control of his body. He raises Maria up a little bit on his upper thigh, which he was rubbing his manhood on her small bottoms. He then slides his hand slowly into a short skirt, rubbing her in her private part slowly. Maria thought it was a normal play because she didn't stop him. After some hours spent watching movies, the light went off, and the day was getting dark already. They all left Uncle Dan's room for their various homes. Mr. and Mrs. Casali, Maria's parents. Maria's mother was undressing when her child came in. Mr. Casali is a bus driver, so he always comes home late, and Mrs. Casali is a trader, a pepper seller. Maria, have you done your homework? Mrs. Casali asked. No, she answered, and you've been watching television since morning. You better go and meet Uncle Danny to teach you. She took her bag and went to Uncle Danny's room. As she was instructed, she didn't even bother to knock as she barged into Uncle Dan's room. Maria saw Uncle Dan's manhood fully erect, and he asked him a shocking question. Uncle, what's that lock on the door? And I will explain what it is to you. Uncle Danny answered. She quickly locked the door and threw her bag away, and she asked the question again, but before Uncle Dan could answer, he gently pushed her to the bed, removing her undies and dipping it into her mouth, telling her not to shout. He then quickly and roughly made his way with her as she wept uncontrollably and blood dropped from her private part, staining the bed sheet. Immediately he was done satisfying his pleasure, he went straight to the bathroom. Maria slowly opened the creaky front door. In Uncle Dan's room, she sniffed and wiped her nose with the back of her hand, her eyes welling up with tears as she stepped out into the compound. Maria let out a loud wail, her small body shook with spasms, and she stumbled forward, almost losing her balance. Her, who was busy hanging laundries on the clothesline, rushed to her side. Maria, what's wrong? She asked, concern on her face. Immediately she saw blood gushing out of Maria's private part. Maria couldn't speak through her tears, she buried her face in her mother's apron, sobbing uncontrollably. Her mother looked at her in astonishment and disappointment as she cried with her daughter and asked strictly, who did this to you? Maria looked up at her mother with red and puffy eyes as she stammered, pointing at Uncle Danny's room. Her mother's expression widened in shock and anger. Maria's mother shouted, calling Mr. Dan's name in the neighborhood as she bashed on the door. Neighbors gathered at the compound, asking what the problem was, and seeing Maria with bloodstains all over her clothes and tears streaming down her face, the neighbors exchanged worried glances, sensing that something terrible had occurred. One of the neighbors, Mrs. Ali, gently took Maria by the arm and led her to a nearby bench. "What happened, Maria?" Mrs. Ali asked softly. As she explained everything that occurred in Daniel's room, the neighbors looked at each other in alarm, their minds racing with worst-case scenarios. Scenarios shocked by the news they couldn't believe that the kind and gentleman they knew could be this wicked. Maria's mother dragged Daniel out of his room as he opened the door and then gave him a dirty slap for sleeping with her daughter. She tried hitting him with a big stick close by, but immediately some neighbors rushed to the scene to stop her. Daniel pleads for mercy, saying it's the devil's work. They all looked at him with disgust. A lady shouted, "And spot on him, you're a devil itself in sheep's clothing, you monster." The other neighbors quickly called the police, and in no time Uncle Danny was arrested by the police and taken away in handcuffs as he spent the rest of his life behind bars. The news spread quickly, and soon the whole town was buzzing with speculation. She then took Maria to the hospital for a proper checkup, and soon they packed out of the compound. From that day onward, Mrs. Casali kept a closer eye on her daughter, making sure she was well taken care of, and never trusted anybody in the hands of her daughter. This serves as a lesson for parents who pay close attention to their children no matter the circumstance. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also click on the notification bell below for more videos. Like, share, and comment, and if you're returning subscribers, we see you and appreciate you. Thanks for supporting our growth. God bless you richly. See you on our next video.